Justice Thomas?
Could you again explain to me why, if you win here, it does not present a Section 230 problem for you?
If we win here, we avoid Section 230 problems, I think, Your Honor. And the reason is that 230 is a protection against liability. It's a protection against liability because Congress wanted us to operate as publishers. And so it wanted us to exercise editorial discretion. And so it gave us liability protection. But liability protection and First Amendment status don't go hand in hand. I don't think the parade organizer in Hurley was responsible for the parade floats that went into its parade. Historically, newsstands and others aren't responsible for the materials. So I don't think you have to sort of say it's one or the other. I mean, I think the 230 protection stands alone.
So what is it that you are editing out that fits under Section 230?
So in some of these, I mean, it depends on, in some cases it is terrorist material. In other cases, it's kids that are telling other kids, hey, you should do this Tide Pod challenge. In some cases, it's kids that are encouraging other kids to commit suicide. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we think is, offensive within the terms of 230 that we're exercising our editorial discretion to take out.
Well, but 230 does not necessarily touch on offensive material. It touches on obscene, lewd, lascivious, filthy, excessively violent, harassing, or otherwise objectionable. Do you fit
that last
it in
one?
Well,
I mean, we can have a fine debate about, the last, sort of, how much of that you use, sort of, what's the Latin for that, of the company you keep and all of that. We could have that fine debate in some other case, but we would certainly take the position that we're protected in those judgments.
Well, I think you'd make that the AU-STEM doctrine do a lot of work, but let's put that aside. Tell me again exactly what the expressive conduct is that, for example, YouTube engages in when Twitter deplatforms someone. What is the expressive conduct, and to whom is it being communicated?
So when they, let's say deplatform somebody for violating their terms of use or for continuing to post material that violates the terms of use, then they are sending a message to that person and to their broader audience that
How would you know someone's been deplatformed? Is there a notice?
Typically, you do get a notice of that, and there's a provision.
No, I mean the audience, the other people.
Well, they're going to see that they're not there anymore. They're no longer in their feed.
Well, but the message could be they didn't want to be there anymore. They're tired of it. They're exhausted.
Well, and here's the thing. I mean, that message is then going to be carried over in, this isn't just about who gets excised from the platform. It's all about what material people see on their individualized sort of, when they tap into Facebook or Twitter or YouTube. And what they're not going to see is they're not going to see material that violates the terms of use. They're not going to see a bunch of material that glorifies terrorism. They're not going to see a bunch of material that glorifies suicide.
Is there any distinction between action or editing that takes place as a result of an algorithm as opposed to an individual?
I don't think so, Your Honor. These algorithms don't spring from the ether. They are essentially computer programs designed by humans to try to do some of this editorial function.
Well, but what do you do with, say, deep learning algorithm, which teaches itself and has very little human intervention?
You still had to have somebody who kind of created the universe that algorithm is going to look at.
So who's speaking then? The algorithm or the person?
I think the question in these cases would be the Facebook is speaking, that YouTube is speaking, because they're the ones that are using these devices to run their editorial discretion across these massive volumes. And the reason they're doing this, and of course they're supplementing it with lots and lots of humans as well, but the reason they have to use the algorithms, of course, is the volume of material on these sites, which just shows you the volume of editorial discretion.
Yeah, and finally, I'm sorry to keep going, Mr. Clement, exactly what are they saying? So what is the algorithm saying? I don't know. I'm not on any, but what is it saying?
It's saying,
is it a consistent message? Usually when we had Hurley, it was their parade, and they didn't want certain people in their parade. You understood that. What are they saying here?
They're saying things like Facebook doesn't want pro-terrorist stuff on our site.
We're not talking about terrorists here.
Well,
those terrorists aren't complaining about it.
Well, I think actually we are talking about terrorism here, because I think if these laws go into effect...
But I thought that was a crime. I mean, as I understood Florida, they said that the one provision in the act says nothing that's inconsistent with Section 230. It seems to me that it is consistent with Section 230.
So, Your Honor, it is, there are things like if you have a video on how to build a bomb to blow up, a church or something, maybe that's prohibited by sort of, that kind of illegality provision. But if there's something glorifying the attacks of October 7th, and one of these companies wants to keep that off of the sites, or is there something on there that they want to, that sort of glorifies sort of incredibly thin teenage bulimia, and they want to keep that off their site, they have the right to do that, and that's an important message. And just like in Hurley, the message that they are sending is a message about what they exclude from their forum.